Thank you for joining us for this DDI CADcast. Today's topic is What's New 2014, SOLIDWORKS Simulation. The first topic we're going to be talking about are connectors. In Simulation 2014, we now have the ability to take our standard SOLIDWORKS toolbox fasteners, and when we create a brand new linear static, nonlinear static, or a nonlinear dynamic study, we now have an option to be able to bring those connectors as bolt connectors, so there's less work to be done setting up the study. Let's take a look at how that's done here in 2014. So as mentioned, we go in and we generate a brand new study. And towards the bottom under Options, we have a checkbox that we can click on that reads Convert Toolbox Fasteners to Bolt Connectors. The software will go in and auto-detect the different connectors or bolts that we have in our assembly, and will automatically group like bolts and fasteners into our connections folder. All the information related to the material of the fastener and the material properties are automatically brought in from SOLIDWORKS Toolbox, as well as any preload that's relevant to the fastener. Now, the different types of connectors that are supported for this conversion are going to be our counterbores with nut, countersink with nut, standard counterbore or screw, and countersink screw at this time. Some different tips involving inserting automatic fasteners or connectors brought in from the toolbox are going to be to go in and review the actual material properties for each set of connectors, make sure they're all accurate. Also, when it comes to different layers like you see here on our screen, you still need to go in and apply the different contact sets, such as no penetration in most cases, just to prevent any interference between different bodies that are put together by these toolbox fasteners. In 2014, we have now consolidated all of our reaction force, free body force, etc., all of this capability into a property manager called result force. And this involves our connector forces. And under results, notice that when we do a right click, we no longer have that list pin bolt bearing forces option, but we have a new option called list connector force. In this new property manager, we can list all the forces for all connections in the current study, or filter the results for only the desired connectors. If you select a desired cell, the software will call out that particular location in the graphics area. And of course, all of the Windows capability is still there as far as holding Shift to select multiple rows, or pressing the Control to select individual cells or rows in the interface. Let's talk about contacts in Simulation 2014. So ever since 2D simplification came out several releases ago, there has been a need to generate 2D simplified contact pressure plots in simulation. Well, in 2014, we now have that ability. Simply generate a new result plot, and we can pick contact pressure. This ability is brand new in Simulation 2014. In addition to generating standard contact pressure plots, we can also go in and, for more complex designs, choose specific bodies and look at contact pressures between those bodies. Also, we can show our plot in 3D as well. Next, let's talk about contacts and being able to detect contacts in our different studies. Up until now, being able to define and rate the different contacts, whether it be allow penetration, virtual walls, bonded contact sets, all had to be done using the design tree, highlighting different constraints in the tree, and then looking at them in the graphics area. In 2014, we can use the contact visualization plot to be able to inspect all contacts created in a model. To generate this plot, simply right-click on the Connections folder and choose Contact Visualization Plot. Select the different components you would like to analyze and click Calculate. Now you can specify individual contacts by selecting their individual sections in the tree. Again, this is for interrogation only, but it should help in keeping yourselves organized before you run the study. A quick note, contact visualization plots are only available for SOLIDWORKS Simulation, Professional, and above. So that's what's new with contacts in Simulation 2014. Starting in 2014, we now have the ability to access an extended materials database that has been provided with a partnership with a company called Materiality LLC. A quick note about this is only for Simulation Professional and Premium users with active Sim subscription. Actually quite easy to get to. Let's go in and jump into SOLIDWORKS. The way you get access to their materials database is by applying a new material in your study. Now the material database is going to appear as a custom materials section at the bottom of your standard database. You're going to click on the link provided at the bottom left corner of your materials database. You're going to get an initial pop-up from SOLIDWORKS stating that this is not a database that's managed or updated by SOLIDWORKS itself, but simply we're providing and enabling the link to the information. Once we click OK, your default web browser will pop up with the correct link to start to look for your material. Within the website, you can search for materials based on the type of simulation study you want to perform or the actual material model you want to use. Let's go in and generate a material. We'll pick the database to search, locate materials. We're going to come up with a matrix of available materials from their database. I'm going to pick one here. Once we pick the material, we specify the grain direction, hit Start Conversion, and Materiality will give us an overview of the material as far as the raw data, and more importantly, will allow us to override any material properties that need to be overridden or verified. We would then hit Update, and lastly, we would actually download the material to be accessed from our own database. The file format is native SLD MAT format, which can be accessed from within SOLIDWORKS. After we've downloaded the materials, we now can easily close our database and our web browser. And at this point, go in and either point to a file directory where we've saved all these custom materials, or for our convenience, we can hit the open icon and choose the material generated. Next, we're going to talk about performance. In 2014, SOLIDWORKS reports a couple of new developments regarding performance. Number one is the fact that we are reporting a reduced time for initial loading of simulation studies. Now, this is possible because when we open up a study, or actually when we open up a model with many different simulation studies, previous to 2014, the software had to go in and fully load every single study that was included in the model. In 2014, there's an option that's set by default that will only partially load every single study as we open the model with the simulation add-in checked on. This is what makes loading initially much faster. Now, if you'd like the different simulation studies to load as they did in previous years, you'd go into the Simulation Options menu. Under Systems Options, you would clear the option that reads Load all simulation studies when opening a model requires more time to open a model. Once that is cleared, you're going to get the original behavior previous to 2014 and fully load all studies connected to that particular model file. Now again, if this option is on, only the basic information for each study is saved into memory when you open up the model. When you do activate that particular study, the rest of the actual data will be opened in RAM. Another item related to performance is SOLIDWORKS is reporting a general reduction in solution time. So go ahead and keep an eye out when you're running your next study and see if you find a noticeable difference. Lastly, related to performance is the addition of a new solver inside of your studies. We have a new solver type called a large problem direct sparse solver. Now this is accessed under the study properties of our study. And under the solver section, you'll find the ability to be able to choose large problem direct sparse. Now this solver type is meant for a situation where your computer has run out of physical memory on your machine. This particular solver will go in and use some memory allocation algorithms and handle situations, whereas before you would get a little feedback on your screen that says out of core. Now in 2014, the software will allow you to turn on this large problem direct sparse solver and allow you to continue on with your calculations. This is great for analysts that have limited RAM resources at the time and lets you continue running your studies more efficiently now. Let's talk about some of the nice post-processing enhancements we have in 2014. Once you run a simulation study, you're going to notice that there's quite a bit of new little enhancements when it comes to the user interface and interrogating results. The most popular one is definitely going to be the consolidation of my edit definition, chart options, and settings. Previously, we had to right-click on the plot and go to each of these different property managers separately. Now we can access them either by opening up and doing edit definition or chart options, and we'll always have the ability to switch between the different sections with different tabs at the top of our property manager. Next is the ability to modify the maximum and minimum values of your plots on the fly using your legend. Simply click at the max at the top or at the bottom of your legend and enter a different value to update your plot. Also, we have access to our fringe options of the plot to simply, again, right-click on the legend, go to your fringe options, and choose a different option to display your plot a little differently. The last general enhancement to results is the ability to show your mesh at any time with any of these plots. Going in and finding high stress areas and making sure that your mesh is properly tuned or tightened in those areas are crucial, and this makes this much more easy to do in 2014. Next, for 2014, we can finally take results and mirror them a certain plane or axis of symmetry. In this case, we have a model with a symmetric condition on this entire section face. In 2014, we can access and edit definition of the plot. And as long as we have a study that supports planar and cyclic symmetry restraints, we can go in under advanced options and we can turn on display symmetric results. This will go in and extend our result plots and is available for plots such as stress plots, displacements, strain, design insight, and factor of safety plots. Another very useful addition when it comes to post-processing with SOLIDWORKS simulation is the results comparison across configurations option we have in 2014. This allows us to take different studies with different variants, whether any different configurable item, whether it be different dimensions, different materials, features, and we can look at the results in tandem, all within the graphics area. In this case, we have 3 different configurations in which we're simply fixing the bottom and applying a compressive force on the model, and we're just increasing the thickness of the bracket. I have previously run all 3 studies, and now we're going to compare the results together. I'm going to do this by selecting the Compare Results icon under the Simulation tab in the Command Manager. Under Options, I'm going to choose All Studies in All Configurations. Now you can see that we have 3 different plots for each study. I'm interested in my stress results, so I'm going to make sure I check mark the stress plot for all 3 configurations. Notice I can also do comparisons with different plots within the current study or all studies with this particular configuration. Let's click OK. And this will allow us to see the stress results in all 3 configurations. Now it is possible to compare up to 4 result plots from simulation studies that are associated with these different configurations of your same models. The last topic we're going to be covering today is the new ability to import results from our SOLIDWORKS Plastics product into simulation. In SOLIDWORKS Plastics, we can generate and get information about the residual stress distribution and the temperatures generated after the packing phase, but we really didn't have a good method to export that out and insert it into our simulation products. In 2014, now we can. To do this, we're going to start a new nonlinear static analysis with simulation. Again, this ability is only for SOLIDWORKS Simulation Premium, and the trick is to go into the study properties. You're going to find a new in-mold stresses tab where we can go in and we can checkbox the import in-mold stresses from SOLIDWORKS Plastics. And we go and we browse for the POE file. This is a file that gets generated from the export capabilities within Plastics. We also verify that the include material from SOLIDWORKS Plastics is also checkboxed. Click OK. This will do two things. This will import the material from SOLIDWORKS Plastics into our nonlinear study, and we'll also load our project with this in-mold stresses entry under external loads. Now let's open up our completed study and we'll take a look at the results. With simulation's interrogation capabilities, it now becomes a much easier process to go in and take a look at what happens with our in-mold residual stresses and temperatures. Now, some important things to note about importing these results from Plastics is, number one, you can only use this capability with SOLIDWORKS Premium and SOLIDWORKS Plastics Premium. Also, this ability is only for a single part that meshes with solid elements. So we cannot use beam elements or shell elements, unfortunately, or mixed meshes. So that sums up the topics for 2014 SOLIDWORKS Simulation What's New. For more CAD/CAS topics, please check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ddicad or our tech blog at ddicad.com/techcenter. Thanks for watching.